What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and we are here today to talk about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This episode was actually supposed to be our first Potter Watch episode, but our friend that was going to join us basically had to push it out for a while because they were very busy for this month. So I think that's something that we'll be recording in December, which might actually be around the time that you're seeing this episode. So yeah, we wanted to talk about Project Hail Mary. I think because we just read that recently, we needed a break from some of the other stuff that we were reading before. And yeah, I think we're going to do a little bit of spoiler free, and then we'll get into a full spoiler discussion. I'm really not sure how much spoiler free we can do, since this book is all spoilers. Like there's not really like you.
Yeah, if you were to say like one part of the book to somebody, you'd be spoiling it, a chunk of it.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
There's so many things right from the beginning. Everything is so mysterious that when as soon as you get past the first or second chapter, there starts to be things that are revealed that you probably wouldn't have wanted to know going in. So yeah, it'll be pretty hard to do a spoiler free thing, but we'll do a little bit of that. We'll talk a little bit about what else we've been reading lately. If you would like to skip to the spoiler section where we talk about the book in depth, there are chapter markers down below if you're watching on YouTube, and you can just skip right ahead to where we do that stuff if you want to skip all the other somewhat boring stuff. So I would say stop what you're doing right now and like and subscribe, and that helps us out a ton. While you're down there, you can also leave us a comment saying how incredibly awesome and handsome we are. That always helps as well. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so on Twitter, Discord, or Patreon, which are all linked down in the description. Over on Patreon, we have quite a few. Like we have like 3 or 4 exclusive episodes that are up there now, and you can get those at any tier starting at $3. So if you'd like to go over there and see more of me and Gabe, we play some fun games, we go through some funny Reddit posts, and it's just kind of like off-topic stuff. It's a lot of fun. So hope to see you over there. And Patreon also helps us a lot, and it kind of pays for books and Premiere and tools like green screens and microphones and stuff. So that definitely helps us. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk a little bit, or just real quick, about what we've been reading, because I've been reading a bunch of other stuff. Well, maybe not a bunch of other stuff, but I've been reading a couple things outside our normal reading schedule. I know we're reading Small Favor right now for an upcoming, or not Small Favor, Side Jobs right now for another Dresden Files episode that we're recording this coming weekend. Is there anything else that you've been kind of diving into?
Yes, I've got 2 of them. One of them I think you'll be really excited about. The other one you'll probably be excited. So the first one is I've tried Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Oh, what do you think?
So I've only listened to the first book, and I like it. It's very different from the lit RPG that I'm used to, and not so much in the sense of like, how the game is played, but I think it's more of just the maybe the pacing, or kind of the it's hard to explain, but it's different.
Slow?
No, it's not even slow.
Oh.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. And maybe I'm just basing this because I fucking love the land so much. So maybe I'm like, oh, it's not quite the land, but it's good. And I think I'll continue it for sure. And then, so I listened to the first book of that, and then I started Harry Potter.
Right.
Yeah. So I just finished the 4th book.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, you're liking it then.
I'm liking it a lot.
Oh,
yeah, I'm liking it a lot. It's I honestly didn't expect, like, when you went on the Harry Potter kick, and I was like, man, because I love the movies and stuff, but I was like, just makes me feel like I'm 10 again.
Right.
not, and like that's always nice to feel young, but it was more
Sure.
like I don't know if I want to.
You're like, I feel like I'm past that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm past it. And then I listened to the first book, and the first book was like kind of slow for me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I liked it. And then I went to the second book, and I was like, okay, this is better. And then the third book, I was like, all
Oh,
right, I'm sold, dude.
yeah.
Like this is awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm gonna, you know, I'll listen to what we have to listen to, but I'm gonna burn through the rest of the Harry Potter series pretty quick, I think.
Oh yeah, read the
Yeah.
whole series and we can
Yep.
always go back
Yeah,
and
totally.
do one by one. But yeah, dude, that makes me so happy to
Yeah.
hear that you're at a Goblet of Fire because
Yep.
yeah, Goblet of Fire is one of my favorites. I think my top two, mm, maybe my top two. My number one favorite is definitely the Half Blood Prince, which is
Mm,
the second to last
yep.
book, and then I think my number two is the third book. Like the I
Prisoner of Azkaban.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really love the third book with
Yeah.
like Sirius
Yep. I
and
agree. I
all of those
totally agree.
characters and Lupin. Lupin is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
Lupin's
characters. I
awesome.
love him.
Yep.
And so yeah, I love the third book so
Yeah.
much. That's the movie that I'm gonna make my family watch when I go back for
Oh,
Christmas.
sweet,
Yeah,
dude.
I'm gonna make them
Good.
watch Prisoner of
Dude, I
Azkaban.
remember when I was reading book 3, dude, because like I remember like it brought back, like memories of me sitting on the couch with my mom, and it was just certain scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say what they are right now, but
Sure.
there were certain scenes that happen with Dr. Lupin that like like I saw them visually, scene by scene. Like I remembered it from
Mhm.
15 years ago. I knew
Yeah.
exactly what the movie was showing me. I was like, bro, that's crazy, dude. Like
That's
that's
so
like,
good.
yeah, yeah,
It's magical, man. I had a crazy experience with that series. I'm so glad that that was one of the things that I was able to read this
yeah.
year because I definitely won't forget it for sure.
Oh, totally.
So yeah, okay, so Dungeon Crawler Carl, it's a
Yep.
hard one to say.
It is
And
kind of weird.
yeah, and then Harry Potter
Yep.
is what you've been are those
Yeah.
the main two?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think yeah, that's it. Before that was uh whatever that last series we read that was like
Oh, Art of the Adept.
yeah, Art of the Adept. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I
And so
was
and I finished Wizard in Exile, which is the next book in the
right. How
yeah,
how
and
was that?
it was really good.
Really
Really
good?
good. Yeah. You
Okay.
should totally read it like cuz it's the last book.
Well, I think it's Wizard in Exile starts another series, right?
Yeah, man, because I thought that too,
Because it
and
says book one of
maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's just the last book that's out, but it felt like it was like kind of the ending I needed from the first series. Like,
oh,
cause
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
cause yeah,
Yeah, because the first series kind of it's not like a cliffhanger, but nothing
no,
is quite over,
yeah,
right? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So we get some answers, put it that way.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I will definitely read it because I really like that series. I think now you're gonna hear this and kind of like not like it, but I don't mean it as harshly as you might take it, is I guess what
Okay,
I'm saying.
okay.
I as I got further as I got
Uh,
further into Art of the Adept, I think it peaked with number two,
mhm.
and then I really liked number three, and then I think like four was okay, and the fifth book. It's not that I didn't like it.
Yeah,
It's just that I was like, yeah, this is good. Like it kind of like from three onward, it kind of just stayed at like a straight
yeah,
line.
plateaued.
Yeah, whereas the first two books were like a
We're just
big
like
spike.
straight up. That's fair,
Yeah.
man. I'm not gonna dog you for feeling that way. Like I get it.
And it's not like I didn't like it. Like
No,
I
yeah,
enjoyed every
for sure.
single book. Like I'll definitely
Just didn't
reread them.
didn't pull you off your seat like the first two did.
Right. Yeah,
Totally fair.
exactly. Yeah.
Totally fair.
So so yeah, so I guess to finish that off, I did that series recently as
Yep.
well. And yeah, I thought it was good. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I put out our podcast episode recently where we talked about the first two books, and I really hope people check out that series
Yeah.
because it's a really good alternative to King Killer, and I also think that it very much does its own thing,
Yep.
especially
as it
especially
gets for
yeah,
yeah,
in the
totally.
last like 3 books,
Yep,
it gets pretty different from Kingkiller,
definitely.
and but it still maintains that charm of following this main character who is kind of in over his head in most situations, except for the final book. In the final book, I felt like he was just like super overpowered and like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kicking everybody's ass,
yeah,
which in some ways I like that and in some ways I didn't like it,
yeah,
but I never thought there was never a point in the series where I was like this is bad. It
yeah,
was always like this is good, and there are moments where it's like this is amazing, and it
yep,
fluctuated between the
yep,
two, I feel like.
yep.
So the other thing I read was I have always put off reading Lord of the Rings,
Mm,
and it's something where I was just like it's an old book, I just don't really feel like going back and reading it. It's so antiquated. I'm just not really into classic fantasy. But I found a thing on YouTube. Somebody uploaded an audiobook that a fan made. It's not like through a like actual
yeah,
studio or anything. And this guy recorded everything himself. The whole book he read. I've only read so far Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm about halfway through the Two Towers. But he did audiobooks for all three of them, and he is like probably one of the best voice actors I've ever heard. Like
whoa.
he's up there with like Nick Podell and
So,
stuff. Like
so
he
can I like listen to this on YouTube?
yeah, yeah. I sent the link into the group chat.
Okay, I'll have to
Yeah,
go back and see because
yeah,
that sounds cool, dude.
yeah. He does an incredible job with the voices. Like they're so varied. Like they're so like he does the Gollum voice perfectly, and like Frodo and Sam and Gandalf really sounds like Gandalf, and
Yeah,
dude, it's so good. And and not only that, but he adds the music from the movies. So like the really well known like Shire theme
yep,
that plays at like all the really emotional moments, and then there's like dun 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 dun, dun that plays during
yeah,
like the action scenes. So there's like actual like movie music all throughout the book, and then there's background noise to where they'll be like in a tavern or something, and you'll hear all the people behind them giving each other shit or clinking their glasses on the table or
yep,
whatever. Is very, very good. I never felt like the background noise or the music or anything overpowered the vocals. It was mixed really, really well. And it's just incredible what this guy did. Like he's not making any money on it. It was just something that he did
yeah,
because he loved the books,
yep,
and it made me really love the books. I started reading Fellowship, and right from the beginning pretty much I was like, "Oh, wow, I'm actually like really into this." Like some of the dialogue that they're using with each other is old, but it sounds modern because of this voice actor. Like he put such a modern spin on everything where you don't feel like you're reading a book from the 30s or whenever it was written. You feel like you're reading a book that was written today, but that the characters just talk a little funny.
yeah,
um and so I got really, really into it. There was times where I was crying at the end of uh Fellowship of the Ring. There's a moment where like there's Frodo and Sam, and they're kind of like paired together on this journey. Gandalf kind of like pairs them together, and Gandalf, he says to Sam before they leave, like, "Don't you dare leave him, Sam. Don't you dare leave him behind." And Sam sees Frodo, like he calls him his master, and he's not saying that in like a like, "Oh yes, master" kind of way,
yeah.
but he's like, that is my he's like, that is like my captain, like
Mm,
that is my person.
that's my king right there.
Yeah, and so like the friendship between these two made me cry so many times,
Wow.
dude. There's this one scene early on in the book where I teared up a little bit just because of everything that was going on. They're leaving the Shire, and Sam's like, "This is the farthest I've ever been from home," and like they're realizing that it's just them out there on their own, and they're kind of I think by that point they might have Merry and Pippin as well, but they're traveling outside of the Shire, and it's their first night on the road where there's real danger out in the world. They don't know what they're about to experience, and Sam is so protective of Frodo, and they're sitting around this campfire, and Frodo's kind of like sitting on this log, and Sam is sleeping at his feet, and his head is like resting on Frodo's feet as they sit there at the campfire, because his whole mission in life is to protect Frodo.
Yeah.
And dude, it just got me in the feels
Yeah.
so much, the love that Sam has for Frodo. And I'm not going to do a whole review for this thing yet, especially on this episode. But yeah, there was so many moments. There's a moment at the end of Fellowship of the Ring where everybody is kind of splitting off and going in different directions, and Frodo tries to go off on his own because he feels like he's endangering everybody else. And so Frodo gets into this boat, and he's like about to just like take off, and Sam goes to the campsite, and he realizes that Frodo's not at the campsite, and he's like, fuck, I know where he is. And he's running through the woods, like he left all his bags and everything
just
behind,
full sprint,
running full sprint through the woods, and Frodo is out in the water on the boat, and Sam dives into the water.
Yeah, dude.
And he gets out to the boat, and like the Shire music is playing, so it makes it even more emotional. Like,
weeping, like,
and Sam is like, and Frodo's like, what are you doing? And like pulls him up onto the boat, and like Sam and Frodo are crying, and Sam's like, Gandalf said, don't you dare leave him, Samwise Gamgee. Don't you dare leave him. And it's this big emotional. It's so good.
That's so awesome, dude.
Yeah, you have to at least read Fellowship. Like, it is,
dude.
It is so good, dude.
Especially if I can listen to like a new narrator. Like, you honestly had me at like, it feels like
Nick
a
Podell.
New book where they just it feels like a new book where they just like maybe talk funny versus a very antiquated, very old series.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It really doesn't feel like classic fantasy at all. Like, it doesn't feel like super antiquated, but god damn, dude, yeah, it's such a good book. If you only read Fellowship of the Ring and just ended there, like, I mean, like, I'm gonna go on and read the rest, but I'm just saying,
I mean,
if you only read Fellowship, like, that would be enough of an experience to where you're just like, oh my god, like, I understand why people love Lord of the Rings. Like,
I would probably have to keep going though,
Yeah,
I don't know if I could read one book and have that much to say and just be like, nah, I'm not gonna read the rest.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're gonna love it. I'm having a great time with it, and yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. I was always one of those guys where I'm like, I really, like, I understand that Lord of the Rings is this big franchise and that it's this thing that a lot of people love. I'm like, but I don't quite get it. Like, I've seen the movies, and I thought the movies were great. I have a lot of nostalgia for them, but the people that are so rabid about this IP, like, I don't quite get it. Reading Fellowship and now reading what I have of the Two Towers, I'm like, oh, I get it. I'm like, I totally get it. Like, oh man, yeah, it's excellent. Cool. It's excellent.
Hey, this might make me sound a little silly here, but what does IP stand for when you say it like that?
It's some intellectual property. Yeah, it's mostly and it can be interchanged with the word franchise.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
Like The Last of Us is an IP.
Okay.
Or like the Red Dead games, that whole Red Dead franchise is an IP.
Gotcha.
So
makes sense.
All right, so hopefully I trimmed that down for you guys in the final edit so that I'm not just talking about Lord of the Rings for a half hour. But we are going to talk a little bit, do a little bit of spoiler-free stuff for Project Hail Mary. And like I said, this is going to be a hard one to do. So this segment will probably only be like 5, maybe 10 minutes long. But what I can say about it as far as story goes is that when we start the book, all we know is that there is a guy on a vessel of unknown make and model. Like, it could be a ship, it could be a spaceship, rocket ship, whatever, judging from the cover, I know you could probably guess what it
Yeah.
is. And just by judging, the kind of stuff that Andy Weir writes, he writes science fiction. So, you can probably guess what he's on, but that the whole situation around that is completely unknown right from the beginning. Like, he doesn't remember his name. He doesn't know why he's on this thing. There are certain rooms that he can't get into, and he doesn't know why he's there or how long he's been there. He doesn't really know like how old he is. Complete memory loss aside from like basic functions. Like, he knows how to eat, he knows how to walk, all that kind of stuff. But basically he has his whole goal at the beginning of the book is to figure out what he's doing on this ship and kind of figure out what to do from there and what his goals are. And he has to figure out how to use science to solve a lot of his issues that he's dealing with throughout the story. And so as far as it goes, that's really all I can say about it. I guess the other thing I could say about it is that's in the first chapter is that when he wakes up, there are two other people in the room with him, but they're both dead. And he doesn't know like why they're dead or like who they were or like why they're there. None of that. He doesn't remember any of that. There is a robot that like feeds him like
It's like baby food slop.
yeah, baby food stuff. And so that was kind of funny. And
he
the,
also has and he has amnesia. That's not
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a spoiler, but he cannot
Right.
remember anything really,
Exactly.
other than very peripheral stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's about as far as I can get with the story stuff. Anything else? Like the book goes into things that would be big spoilers so quickly.
Yeah.
And they link to so many other things that happen in the book that I really can't go beyond the first chapter in explaining what's going on here. But I can say that it is a story of kind of coming to terms with yourself and who you are and what you're willing to do for others and for the greater good and for science. And a lot of it is very introspective, but also is outrospective a word? I'm not sure, but also kind of looking at the world around you and deciding what kind of person you're willing to be for the rest of the world. And I think those are some of the best themes in the book. There is one other theme that I would love to talk about, but I can't because even that would be it would give you a hint as to what's to come.
Yep.
But I will say I highly recommend this book. I don't want to give away my picks for the year too early, but I would not be surprised if it is in my top 5 for the year. I would not be surprised at all if it was in my top 5 favorite books, because I just had an incredible this was one of those books that we talked about, when we were talking about Art of the Adept on the last episode. You and I were saying, every now and then there comes a book where you're like, stop everything, let's read this.
Yep.
And that was Project Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Like when
that was literally the text you sent me.
Yeah.
Literally word for word. Okay, listen, you need to just stop
Yeah.
and listen to this right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, all I could do is say, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, and I couldn't, like, same thing I'm doing to our viewers
No,
right
yeah,
now. It's
I know
like,
you
I
couldn't
couldn't tell
me
you anything
exactly.
about it.
You just know that if
Yeah.
if I was to fucking start the book, that'd be the end of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I did, and it was.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was sold within 5 minutes, dude.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was gonna be my question. I was
Yeah.
like, without spoilers, like, how long did it take you to get into it?
5 minutes I was sold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think right from the beginning, like, even though you don't know a whole lot about the main character,
Yeah.
I was sold on him pretty quickly. Just like his
totally.
attitude and his personality.
Yep.
And
I
was on board.
Combined with the setting was like, it's enough to make anybody just be like, all right, I need to know.
Yeah,
Like, I need to know what's going on.
I need to know what's happening.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, no, I was sold. I was sold real quick.
Yeah. And then there was something you wanted to say about the science that I
Yeah,
would also echo.
yeah. So this book, man, there's a lot of real science and real math and real quantities and sizes and vectors and all sorts of stuff that like you would, you hear and you're like, okay, that's, science, sci-fi
Shoo.
talk, what
Yeah.
yeah. But this book, like it it says enough and it's explained enough to where you're like right there watching him think this stuff out.
Yeah.
And so it was just so cool to like be a part of like this like like I felt like I was learning about like
Oh yeah.
science, dude. Like I was
Yeah.
like learning, you know, gravitational pulls and
Yeah.
exit vectors and all sorts of crap that I was like, man, I would never thought I'd be interested in. And it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And not even just it used science and math and like every aspect of the book. And it used it as a tool to gain other things.
Right.
Right. And that was just really cool.
Yeah, that was interesting. There are certain scientific problems that are
Yeah.
presented,
Barriers.
and yeah, barriers is a
Yeah.
great term for it. And once he's able to get past that, it kind of unlocks the
Mm-hmm.
next thing that he needs to figure out. And so doing the first thing becomes a tool for doing the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved watching that progression of him kind of figuring all this out piece by piece.
Yep.
And I think Andy Weir did a good job of like I didn't really I can't say that I understood really any of it,
Mm.
but I can say, I mean, that's not true. I guess I did, but like on a very like detailed level. I don't understand the minutia of figuring out like how something's gravitational pull is going to be affected or something.
Yeah.
But the book gives you enough context with all the science where you understand how it's being used for the
Yeah.
situation at hand.
Totally.
And
Yep.
like I never like even though there may have been like terminology and stuff that I didn't understand, there was enough context and enough um it was, I guess, dumbed down enough for me to understand how it's being used in the story, why it's important, and basically what it means for the story to work. Because I think that if if this had been like, I mean, this is a hard sci-fi book, but if this had been one of those sci-fi books where the author is saying this stuff and expecting the reader to have a PhD in rocket science or
Yeah.
whatever, like it just wouldn't have worked. And so
Yep.
I think Andy Weir did a really good job of, not necessarily dumbing it so far down to where the people that actually know science are like, okay, that's a little
Yeah.
soft. But people like you and I can be like, okay, I get it generally. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I basically get it.
Yep.
Um, and so I thought that was really cool, and that was something that started to worry me at the beginning of the book when all of
Mm-hmm.
these terminologies were getting thrown out there, and I was like, "Ooh, am I gonna like as this gets more and more
Yeah.
complex? Am I gonna understand this?" But Andy Weir did a perfect job of
Yep.
keeping it, a very even playing field throughout the whole
Yeah.
book. I feel like. Yeah. What else can I say about it? The main character, I can't say his name, but the main character was excellent. I really enjoyed, you're pretty much in his head the whole time. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think there's a POV without
No.
him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was excellent. He's very funny, he's very smart, he thinks outside of the box for a lot of
Yes.
things. And there's certain things that he cares about that it makes you care about. And I just really enjoyed my time in his head and just kind of following him around. And yeah, do you have any thoughts on him? Or
None that I can say right now.
yeah, okay. And then yeah, I will say the narrator, we obviously did the audiobook. The
Yep.
narrator was excellent.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Flawless.
man,
Yeah.
I thought he did such a good job. I wonder if I have the audiobook pulled up right
Yeah. So
here.
I have it right here.
Yeah, if you see what the Ray Porter is
Ray
the
Porter. Yeah.
is the narrator.
Yeah. He was impressive.
Yeah,
Very impressive.
he did an excellent job. There wasn't mostly we're just kind of in the main character's POV, and so it's like there's not a whole lot of other voices to do, but I think
Yeah.
the things that he did do were very, very well done. I really enjoyed just listening to him narrate, even just like the non-dialogue and like the main character's thoughts and stuff was really, really good. So yeah, anyway, I mean, I guess that's the end of our spoiler free segment. I don't really know what else I can say, but I will say that if you've been on the fence about it, like I had heard people talk about this book for a long time, and I was like, I like sci-fi. I don't know why I never picked it up, but I heard so many people talking about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it eventually. And this is one of those books where I'm like, dude, I wish I had read this like a year ago.
Totally,
Like,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm glad I read it now because I had a great time reading it a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it's fantastic. If you've been on the fence about it, it absolutely deserves all of the hype that it gets, all of the good reviews that it gets. It completely earns that, and I think that you will walk away from this book feeling incredibly satisfied. Like
Yeah.
the ending was very, very
Oh,
satisfying.
man,
Yeah.
absolutely satisfying.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap up our spoiler-free segment, and we're gonna go into full spoilers. So if you have not read this book, then turn back now because you do not want to be spoiled on this book. You really, really want to experience it for yourself. But yeah, so we're gonna go into full spoilers. So everything's getting spoiled in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. Alrighty, Gabe. Let's hear it. Let's hear your initial thoughts.
Oh man. Yeah, I was as I said before, man, when I popped this book on, I was working, it was a rough day, right? Had a
Yeah.
lot of stuff I had to do. And man, it just starts off when he's in the ship and he wakes up and he's confused and the robot's trying to, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And he
Oh,
can't figure it
dude.
out.
Ah,
And
I can't
and dude,
imagine what kind of hell that would be.
yeah, but that scene in and of itself like spiked my interest and curiosity so much that I stopped working and like had to take a bathroom, right?
Oh yeah.
So I could like see what's going on because
Yeah.
it was the kind of thing where I was gonna stop doing what I was doing so I could listen,
Right.
just wait and
And
see
like
like
pay
what's,
attention.
yeah, pay attention to
Yeah.
it. And so yeah, man, that was the first indicator of how awesome this book is. And just man, as it progresses, there's more. And I think one of my favorite, well, I should say my second favorite part about this book is being able to parse together his memories as he does.
Yeah.
And so like
Oh, it's so
seeing,
satisfying.
it's so satisfying, and seeing him, say something or see something on the ship and then like have a memory pop up about what's going on and why he's where he is in different sections of what's happening is like such a cool, like just such a cool tool to like
Yeah.
in to, just make things more like interesting and more profound. So
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think the story really I mean, I guess it could work if he woke up with all his memories,
Oh, it
but I
totally
think
could, but it adds a whole nother like
yeah,
mysterious dynamic, dude. That's like that I haven't. That's the part that is so and
yeah,
like tantalizing is
right.
that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
cuz
It's different. It's not what I've read before.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
cuz his memories are informing his next decisions. Like
Yes. Yes.
every time you get a memory, you know that that information is going to be used in some way in the
Exactly.
next scene.
Exactly.
And so there'll be times where they talk about when when they talked about like astrophage breeding, like how the astrophages breed and
Yeah.
grow. That information, like him and Rocky used that information in the next scene for
Yeah.
whatever project they were
Yep.
doing. And yeah, I thought that was so cool. I especially loved all of the early memories of him figuring out the
Yes.
astrophage.
With the, what was that? What's the gal's name? The girl that was
Strat.
Strat.
Yeah.
She was like literally like the ultimate authority on the planet. I thought that was cool, man. Some of those scenes where like, like
when she's
she
in
like
court.
yeah, when she's in court or when they get to like the Chinese aircraft carrier and he's
Yeah.
just like, "What are we doing? This is China." And she's like, "China works for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a fuck. China works for me."
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
later learning that she's like, "Listen, like I was given utter authority and I will pay for it. Like I will pay
yes, I was gonna
dearly."
mention that.
And she even says, she's like, "I will gladly burn in eternity for the rest of my life if me doing what I'm doing now can save this planet," right?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, Strat for the win.
Yeah.
She's a domineering bitch of goodness. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, yeah.
It isn't that wild. Yeah, I was after that scene, I was when she said that, I was
Yeah.
thinking about it and I'm like, "Oh yeah, after he's gone up in the ship and it's kind of like, okay, we're at our point of no
Yeah.
return. We don't really need Strat anymore." It's
She'll get
like,
eaten alive, dude.
yeah,
She'll get
she's in prison or
yeah.
killed or
Yep.
something. Um,
Until and I wish we could have seen
I
this,
know,
you
I
know,
know.
until they fucking, they send the what does he call those ships? The
The Beatles.
Beatles, until he sends the Beatles back and it works. But before we get there, we have to talk about my second favorite part of this book, and that is the alien named Rocky.
Yeah. Now the text you referred to earlier was I had texted you and said, if you like characters like Mouse, if you like characters like the goddamn cat
Oh,
from
I
Art of the
knew very,
Adept,
very quickly
yeah,
exactly what you meant.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think you'll like this book. And so yeah, I would love to hear what you thought about Rocky because he is one of my favorite characters of the year.
Oh, hands down, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was a huge, this is by far the most remembered part I think of the book in my mind was, our guy Grace is out there by himself. He's figured out what's going on for the most part. But he's alone. His crew's dead. He's by himself with this robot that feeds him twice
Yeah.
a day and gives him coffee if he asks for it. And so when, he's sitting there and he sees on his scanner the blip A, right? The
Yeah.
ship. And I was like, holy shit, dude. In my head, I was like, it's gotta be something else. Like this, I don't know how they would introduce aliens right now. Like, yeah, I couldn't fathom how they could do it.
Yeah.
Uh, but as like the second that ship flashes its drive back at him, because I think he flashes his drive a couple times,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the ship, Blip A does it back. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Holy
And
shit.
sure enough, dude, they keep going, and they are. This is another crazy part about this book. They're communicating in such like just an utterly basic, like
Yeah.
very just like no energy way that like you feel like anybody could probably figure out if they had any kind of mental
Yeah. Well,
and
even before that, like even before they see each other, he's like outside on the hull of his ship and they're throwing a can back
well,
and
no,
forth.
yeah, no.
Like,
Well, I was talking about because he sees the ship on the scanner very first
yeah.
before he ever goes
Oh, you
outside.
mean like communicating with the light and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
flash the hard drive, and then
Yeah.
that's when he goes out because he sees the Blip A launches something, and that pops up Blip B on his radar. He's like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck is this?" And then he goes out and gets it. And sure enough, dude, they just like being geniuses, they both are. They just continue to experiment and find ways that
Yeah.
like, dude, the part when they build the tunnel in between ships,
Yeah. I
that
love
shit
that.
is crazy,
It's
dude.
so cool.
Like he like it's hard to explain even just remembering, but they both just know what needs to happen because
Yeah. And
like
like,
they don't know their atmospheres. Rocky's atmosphere is 21 times stronger,
yeah,
and it's literally ammonia. And so
ammonia
how the
and the
fuck would he
gravity's
know
super
that?
high. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have to like figure it out. And so
Yeah,
anyways,
the part I loved about the tunnel coming over and even the can being shot
yeah.
back and forth is Rylan, he's like he's more of the science guy and Rocky is the engineer.
Oh,
And
totally. Yeah.
so Rylan like barely knows how to fly his ship. And
Yeah.
so he couldn't do any kind of like delicate maneuvers or anything. But Rocky being the engineer, he knows like little tiny degrees to
Yep.
move his ship to make it work how he wants it to.
Yeah.
And so Rocky is able to move his ship perfectly in the right way
That's
to
right.
get this tunnel that he built to go right over the hatch door.
Yeah, and then
Like,
he like glues it with this crazy Xena
Yeah.
Knight, and then it's just there.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, man, the precision you would have to have to
Oh, it's
it like
amazing.
in
Yeah,
space moving a whole
amazing.
ship and get that tunnel right on there. It just shows like how good Rocky is at that. But then he builds like the barrier in the middle. He's got all the different hexagons and
Yep, yep,
Rocky can't see. So he's like, I'll try a bunch of different things and see
yeah,
what he can see through. As then when Rylan like picks one and Rocky makes it all out of that. I thought that was super cool because that was their first way of
yeah.
of
Like that was their first communication,
yeah,
like question and answer.
yeah. Rylan's
Yeah,
like,
dude.
I can see through this one.
And he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so good. And then at first I think at first they figure out what yes and no are, and
Yes.
that
Yep.
was like their building blocks. And Rylan even says it later in that chapter or the next one. He's like once you have a foundation of say like
Yeah.
20 words or something,
Yep.
then it kind of snowballs from there because you can use your baseline of words to kind of make other words
Yeah.
and make bigger sentences and
Yep.
whatnot.
And
um
he also made a computer algorithm
yeah.
at
Oh
first
yeah.
also. That's what translated for them at first
Yeah.
was a computer, but he was like once you get these building blocks, you can essentially learn a language pretty fast.
Was it like the moment I was waiting for you to discover because
Yeah.
it was the moment where I was like, what the fuck was the first time that Rocky talked?
Oh.
Yeah.
Dude,
Dude,
yeah,
were you
totally.
expecting that noise at
No,
all?
not
Like
at all. No, not at
cuz
all. I thought
people
I'd hear like just a deep like growling or something,
like a
yeah, some weird
yeah.
spider noise,
Yeah.
No, I was not expecting sing song.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that was so crazy because everybody says, like, everybody who reviews this book, they're like, you have to do the audiobook because there is
Yeah.
a moment, there's a moment a few chapters in where the audio changes. They're like, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how it changes, but it does, and you're gonna want to be doing the
Yep.
audiobook. And that moment when it was just like a
Yep.
like, oh
Yep.
man, I was like, what is happening? This is
Yeah,
so
dude.
cool.
Yeah, so awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Rocky was just a fantastic character, especially once they're able to communicate and they
Yeah.
start like becoming
Yeah,
friends.
and they start like working together. Rocky's
Yeah.
able, he makes this bubble, right, where he can
Yeah. Oh,
contain his
dude, that was so
atmosphere and
great.
then go into Raylan's ship.
I loved his
And
little
I was like,
hamster ball.
dude, yeah, he had a hamster ball, exactly. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
And then them, because I'm assuming people that are listening to this have probably read the book. But
Yeah.
if anybody out there is listening and has not, both the alien Rocky and our guy Rylan, their planets have the same problem with this astrophage. Both their
Yes.
planets are dying. Their suns are dying. The planets are dying. And so uh, they're both, like Spencer said, Rocky is an engineer, badass. He's so freaking smart, and Rylan is like science. So they team up, and they're like together trying to figure out this problem. And the rate of discovery that they make when they're together is like, it's like,
Yeah.
imagine science in in our world, it'd be like every 15 years they were doing every 10 minutes,
Right. Yeah.
like it's
Like
just leaps and bounds.
it was cool because Rylan could use his scientific brain to think of something and like why something would work,
That's right. And
and
then
then Rocky
Rocky's
would
like,
figure out
this is how
how.
we make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, dude,
exactly.
such a good
Yeah.
team up. And
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things from this book too was that you know, Rocky and Rylan are both the last surviving
Yes.
people in their crew. And so it's just them. I think like Andy Weir could have made it so that like Rocky had a whole crew back in the ship or something, but that wouldn't have had the emotional impact
Yep.
that was these two people who are basically the last of their people
Who are out there to die.
out there to die
Yeah.
together, and they somehow find each other in the
Yeah.
vast expanse of space. Somehow they come together and somehow they make the communication work, and somehow they find a way to save the day.
Dude,
It's the best kind of story.
it's
Like it is.
absolutely the best kind of story.
Oh my god. I loved it. I loved it so much, and I just love that they're so different yet so, like, there is like fundamental things that are the same between them. Like there's not much, but just like the way that they think about life and the way that they think about how do I explain this? Like they're
The way that they think about their planet, their home planet.
so they're both concerned with their planet. Things like Rocky has like a mate, like
Yeah.
they mate over there
Yep.
as well. And maybe it was just because we were hearing a lot of Rocky's voice in like English, but it seemed like the way that he thought about things was in a linear way,
Mm.
similar to how Rylan does. And you would almost think that like an alien would have some like crazy roundabout way of
Yeah.
thinking about something. But I really like that Andy Weir kind of humanized Rocky in a
Yeah.
way and made him like understandable and made him like you can connect with him
Still have
and
like
feel bad
emotions,
for him.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
he wasn't like too alien to the point where it's like, okay, this is just some random creature
Yeah,
out in
we don't
space.
know how to feel for this person. We
Right.
don't know what to feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that they wanted to, like, they were just as excited about saving each other's planet as they were about
Yes.
saving their
Yes.
own. And like Rocky really wanted to save Earth, and Rylan really cared about Iridian.
Yep.
And I just loved that it wasn't like, okay, we're gonna use each other, and as soon as I get what I need for
Then
my
we're
planet,
we're
I'm
done.
out of here.
Yeah.
It was like, no, we're in this together, and we're going to like save each other's planets. And
Yeah.
I thought that was such an important part of the story and of the character arcs. I also loved how there are two different kinds of stakes at play, especially for Rylan, because from the beginning we don't know what's going on with Earth. We just know
Yeah.
that Rylan is trapped in this spaceship way out
Yep.
in the middle of
Sent by
nowhere.
Earth to hopefully fix a problem that may have already wiped out everybody, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love that there's kind of like the immediate stakes of Rylan trying to survive like minute to minute, whether he's like outside of the spaceship and trying to get part of the atmosphere in a cup
Yeah.
basically, or like
Yep.
all these other things that happen that get in his way. But then there's also, when you look at the bigger picture, there's not only the next level up is that Earth is in trouble, and that Earth is going to freeze if the sun goes away because of the astrophage.
Yeah.
And then even beyond that, oh, this is affecting multiple solar systems. Like this
Yeah.
is multiple. We have multiple issues here. And so I loved how the stakes kind of had like layers to them, and you could delve into really any of them.
Yep.
And then another thing I thought was interesting was is just the fact that we, from our perspective, like Rocky is our first interaction with alien life, but also Rylan is Rocky's first
Yeah.
interaction with alien. So they're both discovering alien life
For the first
for the
time in
first
their
time.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought that was
Dude,
so
it's
cool.
crazy. And like you said earlier, the chances, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a story, but sometimes it trips me out to think about,
Yeah.
like you said, the emptiness of space, people that have been out there for 14 years, then all of a sudden, it's like
Find each
one in
other.
1 billion trillion, whatever the
Yeah.
number is.
Right. Yeah. And I loved how Rocky was just as interested in
Yeah.
Ryland's biology
Yep.
as Ryland was interested in his, and all the little things like Ryland being like, "Oh, I want to watch you eat something." And
Yes.
Rocky's like,
Rocky's like, no, I don't. No, you
yeah.
shouldn't watch me eat. Like, that's
Yeah.
weird.
He's like that, that's kind of like watching me like have sex or take a dump or something.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
he felt really weird about it.
Basically, is him taking a dump.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like he takes
essentially.
in the food and then pushes that whatever
Spits
else
it back
out.
out, yeah,
Yeah.
spits out the old stuff.
Yep.
Um, and then I loved, oh dude, I loved so much the like when it happens at the beginning, it's like, oh, why is that happening? But then it became such an endearing thing that I loved so much throughout the book is the I will watch you sleep. I watch.
Yes.
I
Yes. I
watch.
watch. I
Yeah.
watch.
Oh,
Totally,
dude.
man.
Because
And
go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say at first, Rocky Rylan is trying to explain a way to this alien who was on the other side of the tunnel. He says, he's trying to show him a way. I need to go sleep. I'm gonna be gone for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something that Rocky gets very quick. And then once I start communicating, he's like, I watch you. And Rylan's like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
gotta go like be unconscious for 6 hours.
Right.
Strapped in. And I watch. I watch. And he's like, all right, fuck it. He gets his
Yeah.
bed. He tapes it up to the wall, tapes himself to his
Yeah.
bed, and then sleeps. And we later learned that in Rocky's, that's a extremely important thing in Rocky's like
Culture.
society,
Yeah.
culture. Like, somebody that you know and you respect or you like you watch over them when they sleep.
Yeah.
Which is cool, dude. Because like,
Yeah.
who doesn't love that? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like who?
I
Yeah.
I love that so much, and it's because they sleep from what I understood, they sleep so randomly and for such unknown periods
Yes.
of time
Yes. They never.
that
Yeah.
they need somebody to watch them and make sure that they are protected
Yep.
and that they are not harmed.
Totally.
And that just made it so endearing. It's like oh, okay, like I watch is like I will protect you while
That's right.
you
I will
are
make sure that you are okay.
yeah,
Until you awake.
yeah, like while you're in this vulnerable state, I will watch your back. And that just became such a great thing. Even when
Yeah.
they separate later on, Rylan was like, he was like, it hurt a little bit to like go to sleep and not have somebody watching for me.
Yeah.
He's like, I liked that, and like, oh man, just such a good element to introduce to the story.
No
So
kidding.
good.
Yeah.
Going back to I got a quote here from the beginning when before he knows his name, he like makes this toga out of his sheets.
Yep. Yep.
And oh dude, when he first wakes up and the catheter rips out of his dick.
Oh, I forgot
holy
about that,
shit,
dude. Oh my god.
Oh god, I was
I fucking forgot all about that until you said so, but I remember just cringing
God.
so bad. He
Ooh.
explains in detail what it felt like to just rip out of his urethra while still pumped up.
Yeah, dude.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, I was like at like Fred Meyer or something while that part came on.
You just like cross your legs. You're like,
yeah,
oh,
I literally
God.
like tightened up my legs.
Yeah.
I was like in the middle of an aisle. I was like, oh my god, like
Yeah,
jeez.
dude.
And like there was a period of time, maybe I think it was like 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, where I got in a bad skateboarding accident and I had to have a catheter in.
Oof.
And the bag, like I literally walked around with it, like it was taped to my leg, and it was just on me for like 2 weeks. And there was times where, especially when I was like getting in and out of bed, where the cord would just like tug a little bit. And even that, like it's not even that much movement, and it was still like and so dude, I can't imagine what that was like. Oh my god.
I think I thought in my head, I was like, it's got to be like trying to pass like the worst kidney stones, dude.
Oh my
exactly.
god.
Like through your urethra, not just like, actually trying to pass it.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine.
But yeah, there was this moment early in the book where I think it's in that first chapter or maybe the second chapter. He's like made this toga, and he has like this pocket watch. Oh, do I have this other quote somewhere?
I saw it. I saw it somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, he's got this pocket watch, and he's using it as like a pendulum to figure out some scientific thing. And the robot says, "What is your name?" And he says, "I am the great philosopher Pendulous." And then there was another one right before that where it asked like, "What's your name?" And he said, "I am the God Emperor Comatose."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, that's funny."
Got a sense of humor.
Yeah. And then here it is. He says, I pulled the stopwatch out of my toga. The best ancient Greek philosophers always carried stopwatches in their togas.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked moments like those.
Yeah.
Um, and then I liked the idea that Ryland's paper that he did like early on for like his
Yeah.
microbiology thing, it was on the idea that other planets could have completely different conditions to our own and
And could
still have
evolve
life.
without hydrogen. They could
Yeah,
evolve without water.
yeah. And
And then
so
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
the hydrogen thing, it wasn't or the H2O thing, it wasn't completely right or wrong. Like it wasn't disproven, but it also wasn't
Yeah.
proven because everything that he found later contained H2O. But I did think it was interesting that in his paper he specifically noted that another planet could have a completely different atmosphere to ours,
Yeah.
and the life would still evolve and adapt to that atmosphere.
Mm.
And people thought it was crazy. And then he meets Rocky, and Rocky's whole atmosphere is
Is
ammonia.
yeah, pretty much 100% ammonia.
Yeah, and like very high gravity.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really interesting that that kind of came full circle.
Let's here's a moment. Let's talk about when him and Rocky, they devise a plan. They find that star that is not affected by
Right.
the astrophage or whatever they call it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they devise a plan. They start making these chain links, I think, out of Xenonite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And their plan is to do something with the astrophage, let it out, whatever. And I think I can't remember the quite events that happen. Maybe you can help me, but something goes wrong, right? Their ship starts to like, get caught up and get in trouble. And like they're like, Ryland is like being crushed into a seat because there's a hull breach, and he's like slammed down to the ground, and he's like, I can't fix this. And then Rocky literally breaks out of his bubble.
He sacrifices himself.
Yeah, sacrifices himself, saves his life, and like dies.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I mean, he doesn't really die, but
yeah.
I was like, dude, I was like, dude, to think about the fact that, this is an alien.
Yeah.
And they just met. And
he has his own planet to save.
Yeah, exactly. And the bond that they've created is like, I think about it in my head. And I'm like, if I was Rocky or Ryland, at that point in time, I may have done the same thing, because like this is your person. This is your person that has been your absolute solace for however long. I don't know. I was just I was like crying, dude. It was just really sweet.
That moment and the exchange, really it comes down to, eventually it comes down to kind of an exchange between the two, because Rocky does that, and I'm just gonna say, I was like, dude, if he just really killed Rocky, I'm like gonna be upset. Like I'm gonna be pretty pretty pissed.
See, Rocky killed Rocky though. It was his choice to break out,
No, I mean, like if Andy Weir just killed Rocky.
Oh,
like
okay,
if he just wrote Rocky out, like I'm gonna be pissed.
I got you.
And part of me was like for a minute there, like there wasn't any clues that Rocky was still alive. Like for a minute, it looked like he really died.
Yep.
And so I was like, dude, if this isn't like fixed somehow, I'm gonna be pretty upset. And I'm so glad that Andy Weir did fix it.
Yep.
But yeah, Rocky gets all contaminated by Ryland's atmosphere.
Oxygen, yep.
And then Ryland does the most badass thing, and he like opens up a hatch that like lets all the ammonia in.
And he gets like 3rd-degree burns, and his lungs like catch on fire, and he's like almost dead too.
Yeah, dude, it was brutal. Just like inhaling like 100% ammonia. And he gets out into like an airlock and gets over to where the robot is, and the robot's able to help him. But yeah, he got like severely fucked up from that.
And then he learns too that like, the thing you did to help Rocky, because Rocky's got these radiators on him, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, Rocky's mostly metal, and it's got a crazy system, and he's like, oh my god, there's soot and there's black and stuff. I need to spray out his radiator. That's what he tried to do to save him.
He creates like this air gun thing on a robot.
Yep. And he does it, and he waits, and then Rocky wakes up, And Rocky's like, what did you do? And he's like, well, I sprayed out your radiator. And he's like, oh no, that
That's
was
what was
actually,
healing
that
me.
was what was healing me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, luckily I was already healed enough to where it didn't make a difference. But Ryland's like,
Yeah.
fuck, dude, really?
Yeah. And it's so funny because it was a whole like it was like I don't know, at least a quarter of a chapter of
Yeah.
Ryland like figuring out
Yeah.
this machine to
Yeah,
like go do it.
exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
everything you just did completely fucked us.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. Let's see, Rocky's hamster. I loved Rocky's hamster ball.
Oh,
I
that
thought
was
that was
cool.
so funny.
Yeah.
And around that time when Rocky moves into Grace's ship and he says, "You ship has much science. I move my science into you ship."
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that shit. I
Yep.
love it. Oh yeah, and then Ryland says at some point, he says, Rocky's calibrating something in his tunnel. It looks like a gun. I don't think we started a space war, so it must be something else.
Yep.
I wrote Rocky about to pop a cap in someone's ass.
That's right.
Yeah, getting the Talmiba from the atmosphere. That was probably like one of the like big like action scenes of them like hanging out of the hole and like trying to
Yeah.
get the canister that had the stuff in it. I thought that was
Yep.
really cool. Anytime Ryland was on the outside of the ship, it was like,
cool.
oh
Yeah.
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just all the stuff figuring out. This will probably be a fun one to talk about. Is the Talmiba? They find out that the Talmiba eat the astrophage, but the Talmiba are not resistant to nitrogen, and so they need to keep like breeding them to become and like up the nitrogen levels in their many atmospheres.
Yep. So they were trying to, oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So they were trying to make them to where they would die on their own planet, or like on Ryland's planet, because they were immune to nitrogen, and he was breeding them to where nitrogen started to kill them.
No, not the Talmiba. The astrophage were fine in the nitrogen environment, but the Talmiba, every time he made an atmosphere that was like Earth's environment,
You're right. I got
they would go in there and they would die because of all the nitrogen. And so he's slowly upping these nitrogen levels to breed them to become more resistant. And I thought that was such a cool process. I was like, man, that's such a smart way to do it. Dude. Yeah, it's like evolution in progress because they breed so fast and they multiply so fast.
Generations go by.
Yeah, in like hours. And so I thought that was really cool. And not only did he have to breed them to a certain nitrogen percentage for his planet, but Rocky's planet had even more nitrogen, and so he had to breed them even more to become resistant.
And a different atmosphere too.
Yeah, in a different atmosphere,
different pressure.
And so that whole process was really cool. And then when they split up, and I'm sure we'll talk more about the split in a minute, but after they split up, Ryland is getting a hull breach again, or he's getting an engine failure.
Yeah.
And he's like, what is going on? He looks in there, there's a bunch of dead astrophage. And he's like, how could this possibly be happening? And he figures out that the Talmiba have figured out how to crawl in between the xenonite molecules. And he's like, the xenonite is great for a lot of things, but it's very porous. And like it can hold a liquid or something, but when you're something the size of a Talmiba, like you can get in between those molecules. And I thought that was really crazy. That was the moment where it's like, oh fuck, what is he gonna do?
Fuck moment, dude.
Yeah. Totally. And so I want to keep going down that train of thought, but first I want to step back to when they split up.
Yeah.
And dude, this moment had me in tears so much. Oh my god, let me see. So Rocky, so the night before they're about to split up, they're celebrating and Rocky says, fist me. And Ryland says it's fist bump, but okay. And then Ryland is looking for some alcohol, and you and I talked about this on the phone.
Oh,
but he passes up a kilo of heroin.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I was up in space with pharmaceutical grade heroin, I don't know if I could say no. Like
Yep.
that,
Yep.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Like you have all the equipment, you have a robot to save your
And
life
you're
if something
planning
happens.
on, but
You're
you're also
planning on
planning on
dying.
dying, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh
Yeah. And
man.
and it was the heroin was at the request of the other team member that was because they all decided
Yeah.
like what's your best way to go out. One of them was like, breathing in 100% nitrous oxide
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then the other girl's like, I would want to die from heroin. And he's like, what
Right.
the fuck?
Yeah. What the
Like,
fuck?
yeah, like
Yeah.
perfect bliss and feeling like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dang, dude.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Before we go on to them kind of splitting up, because I feel like that's kind of the climax of
Yeah.
everything. What did you think of the flashbacks that we get, and like all the other characters, like Strat and the other
Yeah.
people that he's
Oh, I liked him, man. I
yeah
liked him a lot. I really enjoyed seeing the kind of the precursor element to this trip that was
yeah
planned out. Because it was like, it was a world affair. Like
yeah
all the countries that were even warring together and that didn't like each other said, all right, we're coming together because this needs to happen. Otherwise there won't be, planet.
right
And so it was cool to see all different types and all different, breeds of cat come together and just, have to make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved everyone that kind of worked on that project. I thought all the characters were really interesting. You had kind of the lady who I think kind of was the engineer type person. Was she like Russian or
He was
something?
Russian, yeah.
I think that was the chick with the heroin. And she was really fun, and her and the captain guy were having like this
Yep.
very open sexual
Yep.
relationship that they overshared a
All
whole
the
lot
time
with
and in such
Rylan.
weird ways.
Yeah. That was
Oh,
really fun.
would you like to have sexual relations with me tonight? Sure.
Yes, let's
Yes,
do it in the
absolutely.
bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird.
Oh my god. Mm. So yeah, I liked all the flashbacks and seeing how like piece by piece the people at the top were like figuring this stuff out and trying to save humanity. And
Yeah.
every time we got a new flashback, it was a little bit more forward in time.
Yep.
And so we got to see how things are advancing at a pretty quick pace, I felt like.
Yeah.
It always really kept me entertained. But then the final flashback is we find out that Rylan did not want to go on this trip. He did not volunteer
Yes.
for it, and he was forced to do it. And I think out of everything, that made me hate Strat the most. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
like I can appreciate it because it got everybody to where they are now, to where, he got the Talmiba back to Earth and everything.
Yep.
But I'm like, dude, he even says it in that scene. He's like, "You're murdering me. You're
Yeah.
murdering me."
Yep.
It's like, "Oh fuck, dude. Like that is brutal. Just
And
completely taken
Strat
against your will."
is like I know. Like
Yeah.
I'm aware, but
Yeah.
I'm doing what has to be done, right?
Yeah.
So there's a level of like it's super fucked up, then there's also a level of like, it's
Yeah.
it's just it is that way,
Yeah. It
you know?
has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go on to talk about the split between them, I have a couple quotes, just funny Rocky moments. Um, Rylan and Rocky were arguing about something, and Rylan says, "You look like an ugly monster we have on Earth called a spider, just so you know." And Rocky says, "Good, I am scary space monster. You are leaky space blob."
Yeah.
And then I have one actually from the audiobook.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'll share my computer audio here. And I can't remember exactly when this happened, so I might trim this up a little bit, but
Yeah.
just let me know if this is too loud or not loud
Gotcha.
enough. Or what. Why did that just
is on the chain. If that sampler gets to the winch, everything will go south.
Turn
The
it
sample
down
container
just
will
a
be torn
skosh.
apart, all the samples will die, and we'd have to make another chain.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't want to do that. Lord, I cannot express how much I don't want to do that. I squint into the distance, ever vigilant. Boredom is a real problem here. I know it will take quite a while to pull up this whole chain, but I have to be ready for the sampler. Sample device radio signal strong, Rocky says. Getting closer. Be ready. I'm ready. Be very ready. I am very ready. Be calm. And calm. You be calm. No, you be calm. Wait, I see the sampler. The end of the chain with the sampler.
Dude. I love
Awesome.
those moments with him where he's just like he's being snarky with Riley and
Yep.
Rylan, and he's like, all right, like it's coming, like be calm. I am calm. You be calm. You be calm. You be calm. Like just
Yeah.
back and forth and
Yep.
back and
It's like
forth.
like brothers,
Yeah.
bickering.
Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so let's talk about I guess one last thing. So that night where Rylan's getting the alcohol and stuff, he comes back in the room and Rocky is wearing like this special garb, like this special like suit. And he like comes in the room and Rocky like stands up all proud with like his many hands on his hips and stuff. I'm like, oh, I love that image so much.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was funny that he was wearing clothing in the first place.
Yeah.
When I read through this twice, and on my second read through, I got past that in chapter 10 or whatever when he's describing Rocky. He's like, he actually has like clothing on. It's got like a neck hole and like hands. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. But okay, so let's talk about the split. And this is the moment where, they put it off for as long as they possibly can. And Rocky has to go back to his planet and Rylan has to go back to his. And Rocky is able to give him enough gas, basically enough astrophage to get back to his planet. And Rylan has just enough food to get home.
Yeah.
And Rylan's considering putting himself back in the coma for the ride home. And I'm so glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh man, just this moment of them splitting apart, and it's these people that have been working so closely together for so long now. And I felt that. I felt that so much when they split up, because it really feels like at that point, as the reader, you have no reason to believe that they will ever see each other again.
Totally. Yeah.
And
no, it was the end.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be the end of the book and he was just gonna go home.
Yeah.
And so Rocky says, "You will miss me?" I will miss you. And then Rylan says, "Heck yeah, you're my friend. You're my best friend." And then Rocky and Rylan say goodbye. And Rocky says, "Goodbye, friend Grace." And Rylan says, "Goodbye, friend Rocky."
Oh.
And oh, dude, just that moment killed me, bro.
Yep.
I was like, oh my gosh, like
rough, dude.
I care so much more about these characters than I ever thought I would. And I love them together and how they interact and their friendship. And it just that was the whole book for me. Like I loved the relationship between them. Like all of the science stuff was super cool. All of the like figuring out how to kill the astrophage, that was awesome. But it was Rocky and Grace that really sold the book for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's kind of the where my notes just about end. I think we talked about him realizing that the
astrophage can eat through, or the Talmiba can eat through the Xenonite.
Yeah,
can move through it.
Yeah, and in Rylan's head, he's like, okay, well, I can breed more. I can put them in a different container. This is fine.
I can contain them because my ship's not made of Xenonite. And
right.
He's like, oh shit.
Oh shit is right.
Rocky's entire ship is Xenonite.
Right.
So he realizes that Rocky is stuck out there, dead in the water.
Yeah.
No power, no fuel, cannot do anything, and he will die out there alone.
Yeah.
And there's a serious moment where he thinks in his head, he's like, I have a duty to my world, right? Like I need to save my world. And I think the dilemma was, if I send the Beatles away and then turn around, I will not have enough fuel to get back. I will die in space.
Yeah, and not have enough food.
And not have enough food. That was it. It was food.
Yeah.
And then kind of the scene ends, right? And you're not quite sure what's going on. And even the next couple lines, you're not quite sure.
Yeah,
Like,
because
it's very vague.
Because he's like, I made my decision. I didn't feel great about it, but I made my decision.
Yep.
And then for at least a couple more sentences, it still doesn't answer what that is.
Yeah.
But he sounds so down about it that it sounds like he's heading back to Earth.
Yep.
And then you realize that he's on his way to Rocky.
That's right.
And that he sent the Beatles out with everything they need. He dropped, whatever, or no, he does that later. He drops them off at Venus later. But or maybe he uses the Beatles some other way. I forget. But he gets to Rocky and he's searching for him and searching for him and searching for him. And he even says, like, it's like, he's like, I saw him on my radar for a while, so I know where to go to a point. But now his ship is dead.
Yep.
And he's like, there's no signal coming from it. He's like, I can't find it on my radar. So it's literally a 1 in a million chance of finding him.
Yeah.
And he's like going and going. And I forget exactly how he finds him, if there was some sort of light or something. But at some point, he's able to just see like a glimpse of him. And he's like, oh, that's Rocky. And he like gets out there. And it's just the best feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, I wish I had the audiobook clip saved. I really wish I do, because that moment is so good when he's like, when he gets up to the ship and he's like knocking on it. And it's this moment where like Rocky, like if you think about what he's been going through, he's like, I'm utterly fucked. And he doesn't know why. He doesn't know why the Talmiba like fucked his ship. And so it's this moment where Rylan gets to his ship and he's like out on his like cable. And he's like knocking on his ship. And Rocky's like, friend Grace? Grace, is that you? Yeah. And he's like, Rocky, I'm here, man. Like, I came back for you. Yeah. And Rocky's like, Grace came back to save Rocky? Like, oh, it's such a good moment. And
so good.
Like, you can tell that Rocky is so, like, he was not expecting Rylan to come back in the slightest. Like, that was the last thing he expected.
Totally.
And for Rylan to come back, it's like
it meant it changed the dynamic.
Yeah. Like,
it made them from best friends to lifelong brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, oh my God. It's just like, man, to think about like what an accomplishment that is, and like how much Rylan had to go through to even to get back to Rocky, and like Rocky kind of realizing that and realizing what it had to take for Rylan to come back. Like, oh, it was just such a good moment. It was such a good moment. I can't even put into words. By far my favorite part of the book.
Oh, totally.
Like 100%. And yeah, it was just such an emotional moment. Like, I was crying, and yeah, I loved it. I don't know what else to say about it, but it was so good.
Yep.
And they kind of band back up together. And I forget if Rocky goes back into Rylan's ship from that point, or if they're able to get Rocky's ship back online. I forget.
No, so Rocky Rocky gets almost all the fuel off his ship and gives it to Rylan, and then gets in his hamster ball, gets in his ship, and then they take off and go back to Iridian or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. They send the stuff off to Venus and whatnot, and they go back to Iridian. Yeah. And then to find out the very last chapter is, it says, I don't think it says epilogue. I think it says, or no, it's day, isn't it? Don't they say day something? Or I forget how the chapters are named. It's like chapter, and instead of a number, it's dude.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? And then we see, because I was not expecting Rylan to go back to his planet, because right before that, he's trying to figure out how he's going to get food. Like, he doesn't know how he's going to get food. And so he goes back to his planet to see it, and they make like this dome for him.
Yep.
And they took a sample of like his arm or something, and they were able
muscle,
to
his bicep.
Yeah, they were able to manufacture that meat. And so technically he's like cannibalizing, but it's like his own meat, and it's like grown. I don't know.
He calls it a me burger. He's like, I love me burgers. I eat one a day.
Yeah. He's like, screw you guys. I love me burgers. Yeah, that was just such a great moment. And like Rocky like comes and visits him, and they're able to
Yep.
talk from either side of the bubble. And he's just been living on this planet for another like decade.
Yeah.
And then Rocky says like, you know, we got readings back from Soul, your son,
Yep.
and we can
It's
see it's at full
it's
vibrance.
face. Yeah, it's or
yeah,
safe. It's back to where it was. And he
yeah,
was just like crying, and I was like, oh my God, dude. It's like everything he wished for, he just
yeah.
got.
Rocky's like, are these good tears or bad tears?
Yeah.
Good
Are
tears.
you leaking
Okay, I
good?
thought so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or yeah, are you leaking good or are you leaking bad?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then not only that, right after that, I think it's the last scene in the book
Mhm.
where he's, you know, he's talking about, he's like, you know, my life here is certainly different, but there's one thing that is the same and one thing that I look forward to every day. And he actually is teaching
Yeah.
young Iridians,
Yep.
and he's got a full class of, you know, teenage Iridians, and they, you know, they love him, and he's telling them history and about elements and like just the type of shit that he was really good at, which was teaching kids, you know.
Yeah. And he's
So I was
got like
dude,
he's got like a piano thing.
super
that-
fancy translator, exactly. It's like when he can play the note, and he's like, I
Yeah.
can even add inflection, like whether
Right.
I'm smiling when I'm saying it or frowning, or if my face looks angry or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's awesome, dude. Just it was
That's
like
so cool.
it was just like the bow, you know,
Yeah,
on top
it
of
was
the present.
it was the perfect ending. I'm like, because the whole time when he's thinking about going back to Earth, I'm like he can send everything to Earth. Like that's the whole point.
Yeah,
It's like, what does he really have to live for
exactly.
on Earth? Like he didn't have a
Plus,
wife. He
he's
didn't have
already.
any
You said
children.
he's already 50 something now,
Yeah,
and it would take him, you know, 15 years to get back.
yeah,
And Earth time would be like 18 years with the time flux or whatever they call it.
yeah,
So he'd be an old man. He's like, what am I gonna do back there?
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved the decision he made to stay on Iridian and let them learn from him. And the only thing that sucks is that I'm sure he sent a bunch of information about the Iridians back to Earth, but everything he's learned in the decades since he's lived there, like he has no way. Well, maybe they might have designed something that could go from Iridian to Earth once they got back and had enough astrophae, like another beetle or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know
But
that the Hail Mary's been in orbit on Iridian safely.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
his ship's right there.
yeah. And they have an elevator that goes up to their
Yes.
atmosphere. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That is crazy.
They like designed it in a completely different way than like rocket. Like I
Yep.
wonder how they got the rocket up there in the first place.
For real.
That'd be interesting. But yeah, what a perfect ending. I thought it was so good, and I loved just seeing and Rocky's happy. Rocky's back with his mate.
Yep.
Because Rocky was worried about his mate moving on to someone else.
Yep.
And Rocky's back with his person. And yeah, just what a pleasant
Dude,
ending. You know, we
awesome
see
story.
we see Rylan in the end there, and he kind of like wakes up in his little house, and he comes out into his bubble. He's like, there's
Yep.
no trees, but they like made all these really nice rocks that they put everywhere, like all these really cool rocks that they placed around.
Yep.
And he's like, I kind of walk around my garden and just kind of look at the world. And you know, I'm like, man, what more can you ask for? What
Yep.
more can you ask for?
Totally.
I loved it so much. This book had a huge effect on me. And you know, going into final thoughts now, I think that, you know, this was a book that I really needed, because I went from reading, I forget what I was reading before Art of the Adept, but it was some other heavy fantasy.
Yeah.
And then reading 5 books in the Art of the Adept series.
Yep.
And then going from that to reading almost 2 books in Lord of the Rings. And I was like, I just need a break. I'm
Yep.
like, I wasn't getting like super burnt out, but I was like, I need to switch it up.
Yeah.
And picking up Project Hail Mary, I was just like, man, this is exactly what I needed. Just a fun one-off story that is good fun, good characters, really cool science and action, and really good themes of like friendship and unity between these two completely different people that shouldn't have any reason to coexist, but they do.
Exactly. Yep.
And yeah, it all it all worked really, really well for me. So
Yes.
for me, like I said, you know, at the end of the year here, I'm gonna have to like sit down and go through everything I've read this year and really decide what my top 5 are.
Yeah.
But it would not surprise me in the slightest if this was on that list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I totally agree.
Do you have any final thoughts before we close out here?
I mean, you pretty much just said it, dude. It was the absolute. It was, I feel like it was sent to me by an angel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it was that. It was a palate cleanser, unlike any other palate cleanser that I've ever read.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I was not even pleasantly, I was blown away by how much I reacted to this book and how much it really just sat with me. And I think that if 99% of the people were to give this book a shot,
Oh yeah.
I would love to talk to somebody that hates this book. I
Oh,
would just
for real.
love to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see that as a possibility. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was, it was amazing. It was an
Yeah.
awesome book, and I'm so glad that we read it.
Yeah, I think the only complaint that I've heard about this book, and I literally mean the only complaint
Yeah.
I've heard about this book, is I've heard there was someone who's been on our show before that said that they didn't like, they thought Rylan was a bit cringy in his dialogue, and I was like, I disagree, but to each their own. Like,
yeah, that's true. There's always going to be one or two, right, that just kind of feel differently about something, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I guarantee the majority of the population would disagree.
Yeah. I enjoyed all of his dialogue.
I thought
I
never felt uncomfortable.
Funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious, dude. Yeah.
So good. I'm glad that we got to read this. I'm glad that we got a break from some of the bigger fantasy stuff that we've been doing. This is definitely a book that, like, I want to give this book to people in my family for Christmas. Like, I've really thought about buying it and giving it to someone.
Yep. I totally would do that.
Yeah, because like you said, I think this is one of those books where no matter who you are, even if you're not a fantasy and sci-fi fan, I think
this book would hit the mark.
Yeah, just like as a book, like across the board, I think people.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, all right, guys. So we are gonna wrap it up there. Next up, we have our Dresden Files side jobs episode. We're gonna try to. Do you think you're gonna try to read through that twice? I think I'm gonna try to read through it twice.
Oh yeah, no, I'll definitely. Yeah, I'll finish it, then start it again. If I finish it for the second time before Sunday, I'm sure I will.
Yeah, I think I will too, because there's so many stories in there that are so different from each other. I feel like I need a second read through to really nail them all down. But yeah, that's going to be our next episode, so that'll be fun. Like I said, I apologize that our Harry Potter thing keeps getting delayed, but we will be recording that in December, even if we have to do it with just Gabe and I. But the person who is going to be joining us for those episodes has said that their schedule opens up a lot more in December. So we're expecting to record that pretty early on, probably the next week after we do the Dresden Files episodes. So
sweet.
That's what you guys can look forward to. And then at the end of December, and we'll record it at the end of December and we'll post it before the new year, is our 2023 wrap up, where Gabe and Chris and I will be in person.
Yeah.
And then we will also be joined by Mick. He will be calling in from Australia.
Oh, cool.
And so we're going to have him on there. And MJ Kuhn said that she would like to join us as well. So she will be there with us.
Amazing.
At least for part of, I don't know if she's going to stay for the whole thing, but she's at least going to pop in and say hi and give her top 5 for the year and stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hanging out with all my friends, especially live in person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it'll be a good time. It'll be good to see Mick for the first time in months. I know he's been out in Australia taking care of some personal business, and so it'll be good to have him back. And I think he's coming back permanently after the first of the year, from what I understand.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I think he's got 4 weeks left of the stuff that he's got to do to get like full citizenship in Australia, and then he'll be back and he'll be doing his Malazan thing again.
Sweet.
And he'll be joining us for stuff as well. Okay, so yeah, we are gonna wrap it up there, guys. You can reach out to us on Twitter and Discord and Patreon, all linked down in the description. We always love talking to you guys, or if you want to leave a comment on the YouTube video, that also helps us get picked up by the algorithm, and we love talking to you guys in the comments. Also, if you like and subscribe, we would appreciate that very much. That also helps us. It all gets seen by the algorithm and helps us get noticed by more people. Let us know in the comments what was your favorite part of Project Hail Mary, or did you have any issues with it? Are you one of the people that thought Ryland was cringy? But yeah, we'd love to hear any of your thoughts on Project Hail Mary. With that said, we are gonna go. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry, it's late at night. I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, it's all good.
But yeah, we love to have you guys here. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, fist me.
Was that off your head, dude?
Yeah.
That was genius.
I was trying to think of what was the funny.
That was flawless. Dude, that I need a bite of that. I need you to clip that and send it to me.
I will.
Save that forever, dude. That was fucking perfect.
Yeah, I will for sure.
Yeah, that was because I was like thinking I was gonna pitch in.
Yeah.
Fist me. Perfect, dude.
And a big shout out to our first Night Angel tier patron, Shad Zaman. Thank you so much, man.